introduce your piece.
Oh, right, sorry. Okay, so I'm playing Serenade Engineer by Carl William, and my name is Camille.
Awesome. Really nicely done, Camille. So I love this because just like with your sister, I get to be really picky. So when you play a higher level of literature, then we get to like kind of dig in. Or we could talk about notes and rhythms, but all those were fine. So why waste our time with that stuff, right? So the big takeaways are going to be when you have a sustained pitch. So anything longer than a quarter note. In this instance, anywhere that you have that dotted quarter, you want the sound at the end of the pitch to be just as strong as the sound at the beginning of the pitch. There are some times whenever you're not quite getting the bow hair to the string before you initiate sound, and so we're getting this like what I would call like a divot in the road kind of sound, that bounce. We're hearing the bounce of the bow as opposed to just the pure tone. And it's not just whenever you've got the quadruple stops. It's whenever you have when you're resetting, and then we hear that bounce before we hear the actual tone. Does that make sense? So we want to get rid of that percussive sound, get it set, then initiate with weight and speed. And then making sure that as we're playing those sustained notes, we have just as full and beautiful of a sound on the end of beat 2 as we did at the beginning of beat 2 or the beginning of beat 1 that has a half note. Yeah. Really great shaping of the lines overall. When you're shifting, so look at measure 55. So you played the B's in 55 differently than the B's in 56, which is in a different position, which is not a problem, except for the fact that they have to sound the same. We can't hear, where we shouldn't hear that you made that shift. Now that's a high level concept, not typically something you talk about a lot when you're in middle school, but you're totally capable of doing that. So play your B in measure 55. And then I'll ask you, I'm going to actually play them separately, and then we're going to go back and forth. Oh. So play it with the fingering that you use in measure 55. So, okay, well, let's get into it. Just start at 52. Start at measure 52. Okay. So stop right there. So, okay, so you see that beat that you just played. Play there again, right there. Leave it in that position. Now play the shifted beat that you play in the next measure. Do you hear how different those sound? It's it's tough because you'll learn that like when you play a lot of advanced literature, it'll say like sol G, like it'll say play this on the G string, but you're shifted because if they want that darker sound, which is what you're getting from that B whenever you're shifted for measure 55. But now the question is, how do I darken that sound while shifting in order to play that B that is now softer? And so that's where that's supposed to be that difference. You can play the B shifted in 55, but then you have to make sure that the dynamic contrast is different when you get to measure 56 and you make that shift, so that the listener doesn't hear as big of a timbre change or a tone color change as what they would if you play it consistently the same volume. Does that make sense? Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, there's like a significant, you go from this beautiful, rich B, and then it's like, oh, that's much brighter and much thinner, but it's the same note. Like, what happened? So it triggers their ear to listen and be like, oh, why was that different? And then it's repeated. That section's repeated, so it comes back like, oh yeah, that's what I heard. So just work for those consistency things. Like I said, that's being super ultra ridiculously picky because you've given me that opportunity to do that. So thank you for being so well prepared and for